And Bastien.
Okay, so we're going to present you the Dagger section of Fiore de Liberi. I'm going to start with the first, third, fourth, and ninth play of Dagger, which are all plays doing from a distance without the dagger in hand at first, and from a porta di ferro position. Jackie will later on introduce the other plays and the other posting. As I present those plays in sequence, I will introduce the different strikes and the different masters and following scholars. So let's get starting here. So starting with a Mandrito attack, we're going to do the first play of Dagger. So the attack is as such. I aim, so without the defense, I aim for Jackie's left side from the temple down to the elbow. If Jackie delivers me that attack, I do the first play, first master, which is a posta longa with my left, always bringing my right hand ready to affect something over there. If Jackie does this defense against me, I have a counter. I can trap with a dagger, turn Jackie and strike. Or I can also prevent the master from to happen in the first place, which is interrupting the attack. And so for the attacker too, it's always two hands. If I come with only one hand, Jackie has so much power over me. So always two hands for both attacker and defender. Now, if Jackie delivers me, let's say, Madrido, I do the disarm, which is the first master that is presenting to us. Jackie is going to do the same disarm, which is turning in with a Juta Volta. And I basically void the turn by dipping, dropping the tip of the dagger. The second disarm is as follows. I use my right hand, which gives me possibly the opportunity to strike. If Jackie tries to do the same thing to me, I grab her hand, stop, and strike back. This was for disarm. Now let's do the master of breaks. So Jackie delivers me that attack. Mandrito attack again. I send immediately under her arm and bring her elbow on top of my shoulder. If I stand up, I will break Jackie's elbow. If I deliver, yes, if Jackie tries to do the same thing to me, I counter by turning my elbow upward, which allows me to then press on Jackie's neck and shoulder, and eventually I can throw her to the ground. This was the master of breaks. So now the master of binds. If Jackie delivers me that same Madrido attack with a pulling back, so I might be able to get that from a neutral position. It's easier to do this middle key if Jackie pulls back, because that gives me a bent elbow. If Jackie does that middle key to me, I will double, as often for counters, I double on my wrist, which gives me here that lower key bind. Now the second key against an attack, this time I use two hands to create that bend and throw Jackie in a back triangle over here. If Jackie tries to do the same thing to me, I basically square myself over my dagger by stepping and grabbing my point, which allows me to possibly strike to the biceps or to the chest, depending on our body configuration. Last keys, if you bend back and up, I will create this figure 4 hierarchy thing, which gives me a dislocation and a throw in a back triangle. If Jackie tries to do this figure 4 on me, I will again square over my dagger to negate this, and I can collapse Jackie in thrust. This was the master of bind. Lastly, the master of throws. If Jackie delivers me relatively wide attack, Mandrito again, I will extend Jackie with my left hand and wrap my hand over there, and I can throw Jackie over my hip like so. There is no counter presented for this. The overthrows are from give me that type of attack over here. I can step in and grab Jackie's leg. There's a variation of that in the PD, same thing, where instead I grab like this. If Jackie tries to do this knee grab on me, I simply step back, and with my left hand I can check the elbow and push, which gives me a perfect striking opportunity. There are two odd plays that don't fall in either of those four masters to deliver me that Madrid attack. I can flick, do a void slash deflection, and the other one, if Jackie comes with a lot of strength, I can come with this time a double, more strength position, which is something you're going to see a lot in Jackie's presentation later. If Jackie does a more strength, the obvious counter is to push the elbow and strike. This was the first play of Dagger. The third play comes from a reversal attack, which is not safe to do at first. It's not something you do as a leading attack. If you don't defend, reversal aims on the right side of the body, from the temple down to the elbow. If Jackie delivers me this reversal, I step away and then towards. The main thing is to protect myself against the dagger, but I do need to check with my second hand. Always two hands in dagger. If Jackie does this parry against me, my answer is to step back and do a pain compliance and dragging Jackie's forward into the ground with that wrist lock. Now, Jackie, I'm going to present the disarm. So the first disarm is as follows. I step in and with my left disarm Jackie. I keep looking at her because she has the opportunity to throw me. I don't want that. The second, from now on there's no other counters. Most of the counters are in the first play. So second disarm, same attack Jackie. I do this, and this time I trade hands and I disarm with my right hand. Now, master of strikes, breaks. Jackie delivers me the same attack. Very similar from the initial cover, except this time I press down like this. There is a variation where I press with my forearm, but it's basically the same thing. Then master of binds. Jackie attacks. So I could force it into a bend, but it's easier to do if Jackie bends already. So there's one presented like this, but I believe it's an intermediate thing. There's one where the hand is against the chest, but again, I believe this is an intermediate position to go to the strong lower key, which is here, with a hand in the crease of my elbow. And from there, I'm very safe and I can do anything to Jackie she cannot oppose. And there's another type of lower key, again Jackie, same reversal, which is basically trading and using my elbow inside of tricep. That can be either a bar or a lower key depending on the position of our elbow. More like this or more a bar. Then to finish, the master of throws. So depending on the distance between us, we have different ability. If we are relatively far, I'm going to end up doing a third play of grapple defense. If we end up a bit closer for some reason, I'm going to trade, step behind, up, and throw Jackie with a...
So I didn't see that. Can you do it again? Gotcha.
There's no outplay. Sorry, Jackie. Then comes the fourth play of Dagger, which comes from a tendon. So the strike can be done either with a plunging position, like so, or with a straightforward position, like so. The defense against this, Jackie deliver me either. I come with two hands in an extended posta frontale, and again I check by trapping the hand. If Jackie does this defense on me, my solution is very similar to before. I didn't present it to you, but for the third play of Dagger, it's pretty much the same type. No, I did it, sorry. So, the disarm, there are two types of disarm depending on the position. If you give me a downward plunging, I come into a vertical circle, and I might have a slice on the biceps. If you give me the straightforward thing, I will do rather an horizontal circle that might end up in Jackie's eyes. Then, masters of bricks. If Jackie is giving me a push through energy, I can either do only volta stabile or a tuta volta, and I'll get either a break and or a throw. Master of keys. So Jackie delivers me that thing, and I can step without releasing my grip, with both my elbows behind her, which allows me to throw Jackie backward. The other one being another figure four, symmetrical to the previous one, except this time it's my left hand going through and doubling on my right. Same thing, high key, throwing Jackie backward. And finally, master of throws. From this, I'm going to do a very similar thing to what we've seen in the first play of Dagger. There is another play. Jackie gives me a very ferocious plunging throw. I can simply guide the dagger back into her, in her knee, in her thigh, depending on the body position. Finally, the ninth play of Dagger. So these come from a Sotani attack, which is an upper hand dagger position, aiming for the abdomen. The defense against this is an extended iron gate, again trapping like so. If Jackie performs that master, I will immediately double on my dagger again, which gives me opportunity to either pull and thrust or exert strain on her wrist. So, again, master of disarm. So Jackie delivers me that Sotani. And very similar to the first play up there, I come up with a dagger and do a circle to disarm. Master of breaks. If Jackie delivers a push-through attack, I will yield to that, and her elbow is going to end up either on the outside of my arm, or if it's more of an upward energy, even on top of my shoulder. But that's going to depend on respective height and energy. Then, there's another master of breaks. If you just stay in the middle, I can come here and do a shearing motion, which might be sufficient to break depending on each other's body type. And from that, I could also go directly into a lower key position. There is a variation on that which produces the same result, where this time I come on the outside of the elbow and produce the same strong lower key position. And then, finally, the master of throws. If Jackie, you strike and then pull back down, I will create a treatment. I step forward and then turn. From there, I could disarm, or I could, but it's not very safe to do, lift, and eventually, he says it's not common, but grab Jackie's right ankle. Finally, there is an odd play that don't really fall into the archetype, but I believe it's something where I already have a dagger in my hand. Same Sotani attack. I simply cover with only one hand, and this. It doesn't say the dagger is already there, but there is just no time from a cover to go grab a dagger and thrust. Here ends my presentation of the first of what my talk.
So now I'm going to introduce the second, 6th, 7th, 8th, and then finally the 5th remedy masters of Dagger. And these are collected together and ordered the 2nd and the 7th and the 6th and the 8th, and then following with the 5th. Basically because of what they do. and what they compromise. So these remedy masters show the remaining guards of Dagger, which are the full iron gate, doubled and crossed, and the middle iron gate, doubled and crossed. The difference being the full iron gate, doubled and crossed, is without a dagger. The middle iron gate, doubled and crossed, is with a dagger. And I believe, and I will discuss if I have time after, that there is a reason for his distinguishing the middle iron gate in these guards. So we're going to start with the second master, which is the doubled and crossed without a dagger. So full iron gate, and I want you to just give me my feet. So basically, it's a structured development. And he does describe that these guards are better, can be done with armor or without, but better in armor because you're compromising measure at expense, or so you're compromising measure to gain more structure. So this is very strong. He says you can do anything, defend above and below, from Mandrini to reversi, and basically you're doing any of the plays from the first remedy master. And now there is, I've showed you the one key that he shows in here, and he does admonish with a lot of doubles and cross, that the thing you're trying to get are the strong binds. So if I do the clover leaf, he has a counter to this. And that, I'll show you if he does the clover leaf defense. And that is to immediately step out and stab him in the shoulder. And he describes one other counter in this, and that is, that is basically the elbow push. The elbow push comes up in all of the masters subsequent as well. And he does say that the elbow push is ubiquitous to all the remedy masters of Dagger. So now we are going to go to the seventh master, which is basically exactly the same thing. And that is doubled and crossed with a dagger, and this is middle iron gate. So basically what he says here is, he says again, this is very strong. This can go in armor or without. Better in armor because, again, your measure is compromised, but your structure is paramount. And so if you just give me a Mandrini, you can come in here, and basically from here, it's everything you could have done from, in this case, the Mandrini defenses. You can defend, stab, you can grab, stab, you can come in, get a key, and if he is coming through very forcefully, he says, actually let's turn around so we can show this. He says you move in such a way with your right foot that you're going into a the reversi facing. And with this, he turns the dagger, and you can disarm the dagger, and you can either trade off or disarm the dagger. In this case, you have a hand free, because you're doubled and crossed. The left hand is more available to you than when you're doing the double uncrossed, and we'll show that in just a moment. So there is one counter, and that is, if you want to do the defense, elbow push and stab. So that ends the second and the seventh, and it does go through that you can follow on with any of the remedy masters as they are presented to you from these two guards. So with that in mind, we're now going to go to the sixth remedy master, which is doubled with a dagger. And this is also middle iron gate. So again, it's another one. Now this one he does not explicitly say better in armor than not. He basically says this is good against everything. And my interpretation of that is because in the double, unlike double and cross, you really aren't compromising your reach. You still have that reach. So he says this is the strongest guard to have. And it can defend, again, Mandito, Reversi, any of them, high and below, can do the same thing. So the first thing is just basic defense, coming up. And from here, you can do the disarm, as we saw in the first remedy master. You can come up, and you can do a clover leaf, going above or below.
Sorry.
If he pulls back a little bit, when he does this, you double up and stab. And then, if you give me a more of a pendente, he's pushing through. This is where he says you can disarm with the dagger. And I'll show that to the other side. And then pushing through. And basically, it's just catching the dagger, and you end up here, and he cannot maintain it. Now I have 2 daggers, and I can hit him however I want, or if he's really pushing through, I can
better than one.
throw him and hit him again however I want. Then he shows a few other variants of what to do with that left hand. There is one where he just basically covers, holds the hand in place, and stabs.
Grab and stab.
Then there is the one where he's turning the blade. Now he specifically says you can turn either from the right or the left. So my interpretation, having taught Kel, we have basically this kind of movement where you've dominated the dagger, it's no threat to you, and I can easily throw him from here. That's coming from the right with the pommel. The other way he says is you can actually employ this from the left, the turning of the blade. Same thing. I have controlled the dagger. I can push more and disarm the dagger, give him a throw, do the key, and what have you. You can also, from both this and the doubling cross, get into the middle keys. So pulling back a bit, I can easily get in and do that again because I don't want to get caught on my own dagger. So he pulls back a bit, I immediately get in there and get the middle key. Or the middle key. Then the last one that he shows is directly into the hand, better done in armor because you look for the soft spot in the gauntlet. And that's basically, look, this gauntlet. Basically just getting the gauntlet with the dagger chip. There is one counter that he shows, and voila, what is it? And he says it's, again, ubiquitous to all the guards, is elbow push and turn. And there ends the 6th master. Now we'll go directly into the 8th. And I link these together because the 8th, again, is doubled and doubled. He also introduces in the 8th all the others that he showed, as I have in the previous masters. He doubled without and doubled and crossed without, all against the Mandridi attacks. So the first one, yes, excuse me, Mandridi, is the cover.
Sotani.
Sotani attack,
Yeah,
sorry. It's the check, and from here you can do a hold and a stab. He says you can also abandon this, and you can disarm.
That was cool.
In which you have, and he specifically says, I like his dagger, don't much like my dagger, so I'm going to leave my dagger and give it back to him.
But not in the way he wants.
Yeah.
Then we have then he says from here you also are trying to get into those strong keys. So where he's drawing a bit, I go into that strong lower key. He emphasizes this all through the 8th. So if I'm now defending doubled, and again here we have measure compromised for the sake of enhancing your structure, or you have added structure because your measure is compromised. So go ahead. Here, and again, you're trying to get that strong key. And again, if it was double across, same thing. The principal thing you're trying to do is this. Although you can do all the other variants of the 9th master, which he says will be shown later. For instance, I can disarm and give it back to him. And that essentially is the 8th master of Dagger. So he shows all the foreshortened, the masters that show decreasing measure, and the rebuttal to that is increasing your structure. So the very last master we're going to show is the 5th. And I give this one last because the 5th is unusual. It introduces several concepts. Both this concept of measure being compromised, and also the concept that you have 2 different offenses. You have this is where you basically have close grabs. You have the offense where I am being held at a particular measure. I have no way I can adjust that. And if I deal with that, I end up coming inside measure. So the 2 things he admonishes here to be aware of is exactly what's going on. Is the dagger being employed? Is this just basically, I'm in the bar and I've got my weapon in my back pocket? So in this case, this is the problem I have to deal with. So I immediately secure the hand, go into that play that Kim so well showed in the wrestling, the Amazar portion, and you dominate the arm, and from here I can bring him down, I can push through, or I could even go in with the third play. Now at this point, basically, there is a counter to this. No, sorry, counters at the end. Okay, so forget that. All right, so there are several other things to be done here. And again, these are all plays that he sees as the arm that is restraining as being the issue that you need to deal with primarily. Because you have the tempo, because his dagger arm is not engaged, you have enough tempo to come in and do a variant, of more strength. Now in this case, he shows the palm facing his face as opposed away. I'm not exactly sure. I think they could both work, except maybe this has a different leverage. Then he shows coming from above and breaking down, and then immediately going into a throw or whatever play is available to you. And then he shows, on the shoulder, he shows going in and breaking the arm, and from here you can directly go into a throw. He also shows, he describes in this, I bring my right leg behind his left, and basically, as the Pisani Dossi shows, the trip up, but again, he does not show the trip up. And at least that's my interpretation of that. Then there's the fourth and the ninth, which I link together because they're very similar. So he has grabbed me, is not engaged. I come up and make my defense. And I've got a nice, firm arm that I can disrupt him. And then that's the the ninth. And if I disrupt him enough, I've got the throw, which is the fourth. I don't know why he spaces them so far apart. They're essentially the same play. Then there is, if you've got my arm, he says I can very quickly go in, bring it over my shoulder, and do a break that way. And that's with the volta stabile, as she wants to. Then he has several plays where now he admonishes you actually have no tempo. You have no time, you're inside measure. So he's already here, and this is already in play. I have to disrupt the play of the dagger before I do anything else. And this is the only one where he says, I leave the grapple and go immediately into following his dagger. And that could be if he was doing the mandriti, or if he was doing more of a fendente with this. Again, pushing back, grabbing that leg, and ending with the throw. And then he has the sotanis, or actually anything, because then he also says you can go on and defend with any of the masters before you. So this one, we're inside measure. We have the same feet together, so if he gives me mandriti, I can do more strength. I can do the basic defense and disarm. I can do anything that the other masters offer, because the hand is not the issue, the dagger is the issue that I need to address. So he's giving me a sotani, and we'll show the double and crossed. Again, trying to get that strong lower key. And there is there is one counter that he demonstrates, and this is a counter to the original master. So if I'm here, and he does this, I turn my arm, square up, and I can stab. And that is the counter they offer. Now, in the last minute, I will say I've linked these together. We don't practice these particular masters as often as the others. But I do think he brings them in here and emphasizes where they're good in and out of armor as to what vulnerabilities you have and where your measure is, whether you're inside measure, whether you're not inside measure, whether you have the tempo or not, or whether structure is the thing you have to develop tempo with. He does not show these in the armored section, which is why I think he iterates so much attention to how they play out in and out of armor in this section of the manuscript. And that ends our discussion of Dagger in the art of Fiore di Liberi.
All right, well, that was almost precisely 30 minutes. So, well, you guys clearly worked on that. Oh, well done. Do you guys just want to go, one question each? Yeah, all right. So, so I'm going to ask, for my question, I'm going to ask the same question to both of you. You seem to know the specifics of all the plays very well. How would you describe the broad themes of what Fiore is trying to express to recruits? And as a bonus bit of that, how would you relate what the part that you studied to your partner?
Again. Okay. So the general principles are operating with speed to control the threat in either thing, and operating based on what is the actual structure relationship and armor and length. So, which always, as I said, involve both hands, and it's really about deciding using our attributes to come with structure, operate quickly because this is a very deadly weapon, and use our decision-making, our links, prudential, to pick the best answers based on energy. And ideally, as if we were a master or something, we would need to think, because the energy would feed the thing, either avoiding or opposing or disarming. I would just add that we organize things in that way because we think that the first play really presents most of the dynamics going on, the type of bind, the type of breaks, the idea of always turning to execute the defense. And when combining all four first things that I presented, we really bring all the tools that can be used then ad nauseam, like infinitely in different conditions, because we see them repeating again and again. The elbow push, the turning for the disarm, the braking in case of push for energy, right. Etc.
Yeah, so as Bastien's sections were, as we said, were meant to show you all of the remedy and the students of the remedy master from full iron gate with a single hand, and looking to describe all of the defenses from all of the different strikes and all the things that you can do. I would introduce this section by saying Fiore does admonish that if you see someone approaching with a dagger, you should immediately seek to engage, seek to create the bind, the disarm, the throw, all of the things that you see in Abrazar to deal with that. He says that in his introduction, even before he introduces the guards and the strikes. Now, in my section, the whole point I was doing, well, the reason I linked them together was to show all of the additional guards that are not done with the single hand. And that was the doubled and crossed in all of its various forms. And I think what I would try to distinguish to a student there is, you know, don't get caught up on whether he says it's full iron gate or middle iron gate. I believe middle iron gate is simply because you already have the weapon there, so you're on the center line, right? And that would be middle iron gate if you had a sword. Whereas all these others, you don't necessarily have to be here. In fact, you're going there probably from full iron gate. So they start in full iron gate, hence they're described as full iron gate. So that, the thing I would emphasize to students and these other particular masters, is the issue that you have compromised measure and increased structure. And that is the goal in much of this, and why